This episode of The Deep Dive is brought to you by Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. Have you ever noticed how we tend to think of those grand adventure stories, you know the ones, about far-off lands and daring heroes, as just a way to escape reality?
Yeah.
Like pure fantasy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But what is hidden within those thrilling adventures, those tales of the unknown? There's actually some really profound insights into us, like what makes us human,
Oh, totally.
how our societies have developed, even practical wisdom we can maybe use in our own lives.
Right.
Today, we're going deep into one of those stories, H. Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines.
Okay.
I got the novel itself, obviously, but also some insightful critical analyses to work with.
Interesting.
And this adventure, which even Haggard himself kind of jokingly suggested was just for big and little boys,
Yeah.
has actually captured the imaginations of some really significant figures, like Freud and Jung.
Oh, wow.
Now you, our listener, you probably come to this book with your own unique perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it's a beloved classic you read as a kid. Maybe you see it as a product of its Victorian time period, or maybe it's a brand new discovery for you.
Right.
Our goal in this deep dive is to go beyond just the surface adventure.
Mm-hmm.
We're digging for those hidden gems, those unexpected nuggets of understanding. And we're going to try to figure out why this story has maintained such a strong grip on readers for over a century.
Your grip, huh?
That's right, Haggard himself. He specifically aimed for grip in his writing,
Okay.
that irresistible quality that makes you keep turning the pages even today.
That's a good way to put it.
So let's see what makes this particular literary mind so rich, shall we?
Let's do it.
It's kind of hard to believe, but this book, this enduring work of literature, it all started with a simple 5-shilling bet.
No way.
Yeah, a wager between Haggard and his brother. That little bet, it sparked the creation of King Solomon's Mines. And then, of course, it became a huge commercial success, making Haggard a literary star, like overnight.
That's interesting. That makes you think, King Solomon's Mines and his other adventure novels, like they became incredibly popular.
Yeah.
But Haggard himself, he often considered his nonfiction writing, his work on history, agriculture, even war, to be his most important contributions.
Right.
So it raises a question, doesn't it? Why do those fictional narratives, those made-up myths, resonate so deeply with us, often more than factual accounts?
You've touched upon something really key there.
Mm-hmm.
The power of myths, of good storytelling, it's undeniable. It's their ability to connect with our shared human experiences, our hopes, our fears, that gives them that lasting power.
I think so, too.
And even though Haggard considered his nonfiction more important, the fact that King Solomon's Mines still resonates with us today, well, it tells you something. His imagination was fueled by real-world knowledge.
Right.
His time in southern Africa, which he wrote about extensively in his nonfiction and personal writings, it must have lent a kind of authenticity to the exotic settings and the challenges his characters face. And we can't forget the Rider Haggard Society. They're doing incredible work to show a more complete picture of Haggard's life and writing. They're really highlighting that those adventure novels were just one facet of a very engaged mind.
Very cool.
So it wasn't all smooth sailing for King Solomon's Mines. Surprisingly, some early reviews weren't exactly glowing.
Really?
Yeah. Some critics, they weren't fans of his writing style. And one review, rather scathingly, even made a pun on his name, suggesting the book was, well, a bit brutal.
Ouch.
Now, that's a bit surprising given how popular the book became later on.
Yeah.
What was it about his style that those critics found so off-putting?
It's hard to say for sure, but I wonder, maybe that directness, the maybe sometimes perceived lack of refinement. Well, maybe that's what gave it the grip we've been talking about.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Maybe for later readers, that's what made it so fast-paced and immersive.
Right.
But it's also worth mentioning the parodies written by Haggard's friends, like Kipling and Stephen. They poked fun at the book, even suggesting it signaled the end of a certain kind of adventure writing, but it was all in good fun.
Yeah.
I think those parodies, they actually show how impactful and how new the book felt at the time. It sparked conversations, inspired imitations. It was a fresh take on a familiar genre.
Definitely. Right at the beginning of the book, Haggard writes, "There is no journey upon this earth that a man may not make if he sets his heart to it."
Yeah.
Such a powerful sentiment, so inspiring, isn't it? It speaks to that deep human drive to achieve, to overcome any obstacle.
Absolutely. And if you think about it in the context of Victorian ideals, it embodies that era's emphasis on willpower, on perseverance.
Right.
It's like an echo of Henley's Invictus, that poem about being the master of your own fate.
Oh, I see that connection.
That unwavering determination, even when facing the impossible, it's a huge part of a story's appeal, even today.
So let's meet the brave souls who embark on this incredible adventure, shall we?
Sure.
First up, we have Alan Quatermain. He's our narrator, a seasoned elephant hunter, and at the start, a pretty reluctant adventurer.
Okay.
He's practical, concerned about his son's well-being, not someone who seeks out danger for the fun of it.
Gotcha.
It's that groundedness that makes him so compelling. He's not your typical romanticized hero driven by grand ideals.
Yeah.
He's a professional, weighing the risks and rewards. It makes him relatable, someone you trust amidst all the fantastical elements.
I like that.
Then we have Sir Henry Curtis. This guy, he's described as this imposing figure, almost like a Viking straight out of legend, with his striking yellow hair and beard. He's on a mission to find his lost brother, and he won't stop until he does.
Wow.
It's interesting that he's of Danish descent, maybe a subtle nod to a heritage of exploration and courage.
Oh, that's a good point.
Sir Henry, he represents that classic hero archetype. He's strong, noble, driven by a deeply personal quest.
I see that.
His unwavering resolve, it provides a great contrast to Quatermain's more cautious nature.
Yeah.
And then there's Captain Good. Oh, Captain Good. You can't help but chuckle at this guy. Even in the wilderness, he's meticulous, always perfectly shaved, never seen without his eyeglass, and he has this set of, well, rather enviable false teeth.
Oh, right, the teeth.
Yeah, Quatermain can't stop mentioning them. He brings a touch of naval discipline and order to this wild expedition.
That's funny.
He provides a lot of humor. What's interesting is, as the story progresses, those seemingly insignificant details about him, his tidiness, even the false teeth, they become quite important.
Oh, really? How so?
You'll see, especially when they encounter the Kukuana people. It becomes a key part of the plot.
Interesting.
And finally, there's Umbopa. He's a tall, very handsome Zulu man who insists on joining their expedition. Right from the start, you sense this hidden dignity about him. We learn he served in the Zulu War, and he has a deep interest in understanding the white man's ways.
So he's a bit of a mystery.
Exactly. He's the most enigmatic of the bunch. He insists on coming along, but he's reserved. And it hints at a deeper purpose, a backstory that unfolds as the story progresses.
I like that.
And his military experience, it adds another layer of historical realism to the story.
Yeah, for sure.
The adventure kicks off in Durban, and almost immediately they're hit with the harsh realities of African travel.
Uh-oh.
They lose their oxen, have to rely on native porters. And then there's that hilarious but also quite telling incident with Captain Good and the giraffe.
What happened?
Well, good old Captain Good, he shoots a giraffe, and the local people, well, they start calling him Guguan, which means the glass-eyed one.
Haha, I get it.
It's a funny moment, but it highlights those cultural differences, the misunderstandings that can happen when you're in unfamiliar territory.
Right. And it shows how quickly those comforts of home disappear, forcing them to adapt to the wilderness.
Exactly. Now, at the heart of their journey is a very special map.
It's a map, right.
Jose de Silvestra's map, written in blood. It tells the story of his discovery of unbelievable riches, tons of diamonds in King Solomon's treasure chamber, guarded by something he calls the White Death.
Creepy.
And he was betrayed by, you guessed it, Gagool. The map itself is dated 1590. So there's this historical mystery woven into the story.
Wow, the map is like a tangible connection to the past.
Absolutely. It's filled with both the promise of incredible wealth and the danger of those who came before.
Yeah. And Gagool's name popping up so early, it hints at trouble ahead, like she's going to be a major antagonist.
Oh, for sure. Now, their journey takes them across this grueling desert. It's a desperate struggle against thirst and the scorching heat. But they finally reach the imposing, almost iconic Sheba's Breasts Mountains.
Those mountains are quite a landmark.
They are. And on those mountains, they stumble upon something truly shocking.
What's that?
The frozen, perfectly preserved body of Jose da Silvestra himself.
No way.
They even find the cleft bone he used to draw the map, the wound from which he drew the ink. It's a chilling discovery, a real turning point in the story.
I can imagine. That map, it goes from a legend to a real historical artifact right before their eyes.
It's a stark reminder of the risks involved in this quest for the unknown.
Exactly. And it makes the dangers they're facing all the more real. This blend of adventure, history, and the human spirit facing incredible odds. These themes are explored really well by platforms like Mindful Moments, that AI audiobook analysis channel on YouTube.
Right. It makes you think about the stories we tell, what they reveal about us.
Absolutely.
After crossing the mountains, they enter this fertile, almost untouched land, Kukuana land. Their first encounter with the Kukuana people, well, it's tense. They don't speak the language, and there's a lot of suspicion on both sides.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's their first step into a new, complex culture, one with its own rules and traditions. That tension shows how easily conflict can arise and how important it is to understand and respect different ways of life.
Very true.
And this is where we get to one of the funniest, most memorable scenes in the book.
I'm intrigued.
Captain Good's false teeth.
Oh, right.
They fall out unexpectedly, and the Kukuanas, they're terrified. They think these adventurers are supernatural beings with magical powers.
That's hilarious.
It's such a brilliant moment because it shows how something ordinary can become extraordinary when viewed through a different cultural lens.
Yeah.
Good's accidental magic, it becomes their key to survival. It shows the power of perception and belief in shaping reality.
Fascinating.
After this rather dramatic introduction, they meet Infadus, an important figure in Kukuana land. He leads them to the kraal of the mighty King Twala. They witness this incredible gathering of thousands of warriors.
Talk about a powerful image.
It's awe-inspiring, but also a bit intimidating. It shows the scale of Twala's power, the potential danger they're facing.
Yeah, they're really in the lion's den now.
That's one way to put it. And Twala's rule, it's shown as one of absolute power and, unfortunately, brutality. The adventurers, they even witness a public execution.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark introduction to the darker side of Kukuana land under Twala's reign. It establishes him as a tyrant, someone who needs to be challenged. It makes Ignosi's claim to the throne all the more important.
Right. And then there's Gagul.
Oh, Gagul, don't forget Gagul. She's this ancient, scheming, utterly terrifying character. She orchestrates this horrific witch hunt.
She sounds awful.
She is. That scene, it exposes the deep-rooted superstitions and the injustice of Twala's rule.
Yeah.
It highlights Gagul's manipulative power, the fear she uses to control everyone.
So what can our heroes do against all of this?
Well, they have a clever trick up their sleeve.
Okay.
Good's trusty almanac.
The almanac.
It reveals that a solar eclipse is going to happen on June 4th. They hatch this daring plan to use it to their advantage, to support Ignosi's claim, and hopefully sway the Kukuana people.
So science versus superstition.
Exactly. It's a brilliant strategy, and it sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation.
I like it.
Right before the eclipse, there's this contrasting scene.
Oh.
The young girls are performing a beautiful, mesmerizing dance.
Nice.
But then Twala, he makes these cynical remarks, and Ignosi, in a subtle but defiant way, responds. The tension is building.
It's like the calm before the storm.
It is. Finally, the rebellion erupts. Infadus and Ignosi, they deliver these passionate speeches, rousing the people against Twala.
Amazing.
They come up with this strategic battle plan, using the landscape to their advantage. The Greys regiment, they fight bravely. And Sir Henry, well, he survives a spear attack, thanks to some chainmail he acquired.
Lucky break.
It was. The entire battle is thrilling, full of action. It emphasizes the courage of Ignosi's forces, but also their intelligence and planning.
So what happens to Twala?
It all culminates in this intense showdown between Ignosi and Twala. In the end, Twala defeated, and Ignosi rightfully becomes the new king.
Justice prevails.
It does. With Ignosi on the throne, they can finally set out for King Solomon's mines.
About time.
I know, right? And along the way, they encounter these three massive statues, the silent ones. They could represent ancient deities, adding a layer of mystery and spirituality to their journey.
Those statues sound amazing.
They are. They finally reach the mines. They venture deep into these vast caves full of stalactites. And there they find the petrified remains of previous Kukuana kings, including Twala himself.
Wow.
And finally they reach the treasure chamber.
Found it.
They did. It's described as this incredible sight filled with diamonds beyond their wildest dreams.
I bet.
It's the culmination of their journey, the fulfillment of that ancient legend. But their victory is short-lived.
What do you mean?
Gagul, that cunning witch, she traps them. She triggers a massive stone door to shut. sealing them inside the treasure chamber.
Oh.
It's a desperate situation. In a selfless act, Fulada sacrifices herself to save them.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. Her death, it casts a shadow over their escape. It emphasizes the human cost of their quest.
Yeah. So how do they get out?
Their escape is this harrowing ordeal.
All right.
They're running out of supplies, trapped behind this massive door. But Captain Good, with his sharp eye, he discovers a hidden passage. It's a tight squeeze, a claustrophobic crawl through a narrow tunnel. But they finally make it back to the surface.
I bet they were relieved.
They are. They reunite with Infidus. They spend 10 days in Kukuanaland, kind of recovering, reflecting on everything they've been through.
10 days is hardly enough time to process something like that.
You're right. And Good, he's deeply affected by Fulada's death. It's a reminder of the unexpected connections they formed during this extraordinary adventure.
Makes sense.
When it's time to leave, King Ignosi, in this incredibly moving farewell, he expresses his gratitude to the adventurers. He offers them wealth, positions of power, but he also acknowledges the bond of friendship that's formed between them, despite their different backgrounds.
That's beautiful.
It is. It shows how loyalty and respect can transcend cultural barriers and even the pursuit of wealth.
It's a great message.
So as we emerge from our own deep dive into King Solomon's Mines, what's the takeaway? What have we learned?
Well, it's more than just an adventure story.
Right.
It's about courage in the face of the unknown, about loyalty, the complexities of different cultures coming together, and that fundamental human desire to explore.
You're absolutely right. And it's that grip, the way Haggard brings those vividly realized characters to life, the way he connects with those core human experiences within this exotic, richly imagined setting that makes this story so captivating.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Even those adventure stories, those tales we might dismiss as just escapist fantasies, they can teach us about ourselves, about history, about the world around us.
Absolutely. There are hidden mines of knowledge and personal growth just waiting to be discovered, even in the simplest of stories.
That's a good point.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed our exploration of King Solomon's Mines, please subscribe to The Deep Dive for more journeys into fascinating sources. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who loves a good adventure, a bit of history, or those aha moments that make you think.
Right.
If you're feeling adventurous and want to explore King Solomon's Mines yourself, you'll find a purchase link in the show notes. And as always, keep thinking critically about the stories you encounter and the insights they might hold.
Well said.
Until next time, happy exploring.
Happy exploring.